Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Writers Wednesday show with Books Forward. We're so excited to welcome writer and author Marcy-Maxfield. She's joining us to talk about her book. It's out now, Ems-Awful-Good-Fortune. It's out through She Writes Press. And this is one humorous novel. I know because Nancy started reading it and she's been giggling. And then she starts telling me, I'm like, listen, I'm about to read it. Don't blow it. But she said it reads like a memoir, but it's really about a woman's global journey to reclaim her identity in a relationship that was stretched by the unfamiliar landscape of expat life. And we Nancy and I are familiar with that. We've lived all over the place and we travel full time. And sometimes, we'll just talk about this. So I want you all to go to Marcy's website. It's marcymaxfield.com. That's MARCIE. And welcome, Marcy. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, ladies. It's good to be here.
I feel like we should be having happy hour cocktails with you.
Exactly.
I feel like we should be having a party. I don't know why.
I know, we should be having happy hour.
I know.
I think it's the expat thing, because what else do you do when you're an expat? You party.
Or not.
I think that, oh, look, I'm getting there we go on that.
Somebody wants to party.
Somebody they heard that we were having cocktails. And they went, okay, girl, I'm coming over. So, cool. I mean, especially because I've lived in so many different countries, but especially I think in China, it was all about the happy hour.
Oh yeah, because we actually did an interview years ago about business meetings in China. It was about how much you had to drink. It was like getting drunk in China. Like you had to sit and drink. And whoever was still sitting or standing, whichever it was, like
well, a little bit of that was Tokyo as well, but that's for in Tokyo it was for the men, not the women. I mean, it was the whole Tokyo businessman thing. But I don't really remember happy hours for the women when I was there. But Shanghai there was a happy hour every night of the week.
Oh wow. So all right, so this is interesting because I know this started off as a memoir, but actually turned into being a novel. So it's like truth and basically you just did whatever you wanted to do as a writer, which I think that's what art is. You should do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately that became wasn't a problem to write it like that, but it did become a little bit of a problem when I had to start sticking it in a box to publish it. But I started it out as a memoir because I thought I'm going to write an expat memoir about being, an tag-along wife. And then it really just became about this character's voice, Em, and I just took off with it. I couldn't harness her. So I just went, oh, let's just have fun with the voice. And I think that's when I started to take literary liberties and not really tell, and not feel chained to the truth as things happened, but be more in tune with what I was trying to express, or really what Em was trying to have fun with.
And this is not anti-M, anti-M.
Oh, no.
Anti-M. Sorry.
Anti-M. I think, honestly, that just came out of, my name is Marcy-Maxfield, so the letter M came up. And then I went, oh, M, I'll just call her M, E-M.
Or should be M&M's, yes.
Right. It's very believable, and at least because we have lived within expat communities in 3 countries. I got sucked right in there and went, oh, this is true. This is not a novel, this is true. Because
I'm so glad you felt that way. Okay, go on.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, this is funny, and when you say tag along, I was like, oh man, that's really making me mad to be called like tag along. I'm like, no, because Lisa and I went on our own. So, but the expat community embraces you, and especially at the time being a divorced single woman in an expat community was pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
Because the men loved
Scandal.
you and the wives all hated you. It
Oh
was
no,
like,
and the wives wouldn't want you around.
you
Yeah,
couldn't
and
even
also,
know. Ah. And it's
Well-
fond memories.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, there were things that I really loved about it, but this book,
Mm.
I sat down and I thought at the beginning of it, what are all the issues that women don't talk about in writing? It's not, I mean, they talk about it at happy hour, but what
Yeah.
are all the things that when you read an expat story, you typically don't hear about? And I made a list of them. And then I went ahead and started to write my book. And really, I covered everything. I think there were about 2 things that sat remaining when I felt like I was done. And I went back to the list and I went, okay, I'll look at those
Cool.
2 things. I added them. And so it organically happened, but I did have a list of things that I think women talk about when they're overseas and they're with each other that they're concerned about, but that don't happen in a typical, they don't get talked about in a typical expat novel. And that is loss of agency and identity and so much infidelity and the troubles that you have with children and drinking. I think
Yeah, it's an interesting because it becomes a different community.
It
You
is
know,
different.
it's depending on where you are, what country you're in, and what you're doing. Expat life becomes a different community, and it's sometimes expat communities become their own community and don't branch out into the actual country. You know, and within the actual culture of the people, they become their own little island, and because
a sense.
I didn't have that much when we lived in Mexico. It was like that. It was
Yeah.
definitely like that. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely like that. I've been in 3 Asian countries and in Paris, and it's harder to. In Asia, we call it the bubble. There's serious language barriers, but my book wasn't really about the host country so much as it was about
The
marriage
community.
and compromise.
Yeah,
Mm.
the marriage and
And
compromise.
really, it was really about marriage and compromise. And even in terms of the other characters in the book, while there were other tagalongs and expats mentioned, those were not really the people that I wrote about. But it's there, and thank God that those people are there, because it saved my life to have community when I landed anywhere where I landed, and to know. I remember when I got to China, let's say I arrived on a Tuesday and I went on the internet, and there was a happy hour walking distance to my house on Wednesday. So by Wednesday I had met people. And I mean, I don't want to discount that community, because that's really important.
Oh, it is.
But that's not what I was totally writing about the marriage. And what is asked of women to give up in order to keep their marriage together, and how much do you give up?
And whose career is more important than the other
Whose career is
person's?
more important, and and how does that impact you down the line? And I'm really fortunate. I consider myself really fortunate that I discovered writing, and I discovered writing in Paris, and I wrote everywhere else that I was. So not in Korea, but Paris and Tokyo and Shanghai. So I had something to feed my artistic soul and something to do when I came back to the United States and I wasn't particularly employable anymore.
And isn't that also a part of the problem? Is like you're going as a wife. So what about your career that you may want? Doesn't that sometimes go away? And I mean, I know Nancy had a hard time in Kenya when her boss got murdered, and she and she didn't even have her papers straight. And then her boss gets murdered and she actually couldn't leave the country. And they gave me a work permit when we were leaving, and I was 10 years old.
Yeah,
so
because
it's weird.
So I was like, oh.
But don't you kind of lose your that's a to me a
It's-
very scary place to be as a woman, not being able to earn your own money in a, you know what I mean, in a legal fashion. That's a scary place.
It's a scary place. Well, and I spoke about it in the issue in Paris where Em is thinking about leaving her husband and staying in Paris. And it's like, but she has no working papers.
Yeah,
she would have to marry a French person to get them. She would probably lose her children. So really, what it came down to, she was absolutely trapped in this marriage. Her only choice would have been to leave Paris, to go home to Los Angeles and take her children with her, but then she would be a single working mother, 2 children, and she would have left her husband and her lover. So she was like, wow, I have no agency. I have no agency in this situation.
It's like you're not a person. My passport was taken away and I was told, come back 2 days and I'll be stamped and you'll be just fine. They're behind in their paperwork. And I was stupid enough to go, oh, okay. And it never came back.
Never came back?
Never came back. And so, okay, I can teach art. So I started teaching art to the wives of expats and other people that were in
and
the
they
country.
had happy hours.
And we had happy hours. And eventually I met a lawyer who said, oh, do you realize how much trouble you're in? I'm like, what? I was like, well, they said they bring you back. And this is what's so crazy. We went through lawsuits, we went through court cases, did all this. If I had had my passport in my hand, there is a number on the back that says, if you lose your passport, you call this number and they replace it. Well, I didn't have my passport, so the number on the back of, everybody should photograph their passport. That's all I'm saying, because once it's taken away, you don't have the number. And this is long ago before.
Let's just say everybody should photograph. Yes, you absolutely should photograph your passport.
Yeah, and so, but this is before the internet, and I mean, it just was like, I'm like, oh well, I guess I live in Kenya now. Woohoo!
Yeah,
and it was okay. And then my boss got murdered, and I was like, well, this is a fine kettle of fish.
Yeah, wow, that's terrifying.
Yeah,
but going without. She went through a lot of trouble not having a man by her side in Kenya, not being able to open bank accounts, not being able to get a driver's license. You drove around without a driver's license.
I drove around illegally.
I mean,
for years.
Oh, this is great. Good thing we're in the States now. But so we say all this, but the countries we were in, it was very much like, you do not exist without a man. You do not exist. Was it like that in Asia?
It's actually kind of different. For example, in China, they don't have joint bank accounts.
Oh,
so
that's a good thing.
Yeah. So you have your own. Everybody has their own bank account. You cannot. There is no such thing as a married joint bank account. Now, in truth, my experience of China was it was very cash. It was a cash country anyway, so we didn't really use bank accounts all that much, but it was interesting to me that they didn't recognize a joint banking situation.
Oh wow!
In Kenya, I had to go out on the street and get a man to stand behind me to open a bank account.
Wow! Yeah.
Wow. See, this is interesting though. So Em has to sit there, did this whole thing about compromise. And I mean, you think about when you get married, right? If you're in the States, maybe it's like everybody's got different beliefs. I mean, look at the States, we're so multicultural and trying to all get along as best we can. Some of us. Anyway, the whole thing is, you're in this together, but you should be two identities coming together, and when you come together, that's the other identity. There's like 3 identities in a marriage, right?
Right.
And then then the 4th when the kids come, and then the 5th when the different careers. I mean, so but everybody has their own life. There's their marriage, and then there's the kids. So traveling, I mean, does it flip over for women? Like do they have a male tag along?
I think that it's becoming increasingly done, that as women move up the ranks in business, that they're getting multinational jobs, and there are men who go along, but I would say I've met very few. I know that it exists. It's becoming more. I think the real issue is if companies are going to send someone overseas and they're asking a professional spouse to give up their career to keep the family together, then I think that they are responsible for providing either working papers for that spouse, or and which my husband's company never did, because there would have been a cost associated with that, and instead of paying for working papers, or maybe it would have been impossible to do, I don't know, but instead they gave they essentially give a stipend to the wife. So here's a little bit of money. But I don't think it's about a little bit of money. It's about, if you're going to move a family to two professionals, you have to either work with the spouse to help them get training, help them to use the time in a way that it will benefit their own careers, etc. None of that was available to me. But I did get, while I was living in Paris, I did get an advanced degree teaching English as a foreign language from Rutgers, online. So then I began teaching English, which was great, but was not my career. So it didn't replace my career, and it didn't look great on it didn't benefit my marketing resume. When I went home, I think the issue was that I just perceived myself for the longest time as a marketer, and marketers are they are their Rolodex, they are their network. And so if you leave your network 4 years and you come back, doesn't matter what you no longer have it. You have nothing to trade. So I kept perceiving myself as this, and coming back and getting, a job just a little bit lower. I was going the wrong way. I used to say I'm laughing all the way down my career slide. I think I don't know if I would have made any of these decisions if I had the hindsight, but I'm, on the other hand, when I began to redefine myself as a writer, and then I could see these overseas stints as opportunities to not have to work, but to work on something that was my own project. And that's when it started to click for me, and that I was able to make it work for me, as opposed to being a victim. Although I think the character, is a victim.
Well, I think you have to have those characters, because it otherwise I think it's a really cool blend of what you're doing. I use the word blend, but
ding ding ding.
But,
there you go.
But I think it's a really good blend, because you can stretch things where you need to be, with the essence of truth, but stretch it where it needs to be, this is what people can swallow, versus, everybody has a different thing, and the truth is there. It's still that essence. And I think it's going to be something that more writers do, because they have more freedom.
I think writers are moving in that direction. I think autofiction is becoming a legitimate genre, even though traditional publishing houses just don't have it in their lane yet. And you look on a lot of, because there's no shelf in a bookstore for autofiction, but there are women, especially, there are just writers writing in autofiction more and more. So I think it's inevitable. And
it's a way also not to, like, people keep saying to Nancy, because we travel full time and we get ourselves into all kinds of interesting things or circumstances or whatever, how it is. And people are like, man, you guys need to write a book. But we're like, well, we can't say this happened here, because you know what I mean? So we're always in that, we can't do it. And it's so fresh because, this. you know, and we don't want
I
to,
can,
you
yeah.
know what I
I
mean?
can,
So I think this is that way to do
Well,
it.
and when I picked up your book, I didn't read anything about you at all. I just picked up the book
That's what I
and
did today. See,
started
I'm like, here,
reading. And
start reading.
yeah, just because I don't like to have the background of the person till after I've started reading, so that my impression of the book is my impression of the book, not the background telling me, oh, it's supposed to be this, it's supposed to be that. And I'm like, okay, this is not a novel. She did this. She did it.
Who did that?
yeah. A lot of it, as I said, a lot of it is just collected. A lot of it is
Yeah.
life experience, but it's also collected over the table at happy hours, and
Yeah.
the things that I knew that other women were experiencing and concerned about. And there were so many women who had no agency, who I knew overseas. And I never really perceived myself. I'm a pretty strong character. I'm a working woman. I
Yeah.
felt for these women though, because I felt that they were going to be very lost.
Yeah, you can get lost. I mean, I got so like, okay, what do I do now? Fortunately, I can teach art. And it's very interesting not having a passport, but I could go to work, didn't have work permits, didn't have anything. There was nothing legal, but nobody really stopped me from doing anything. And I would go to people's homes and teach the expat wives art and show them how to paint. And every day when I would be traveling back to our house, the cops would pull me over and ask for a ride, and I'd give them a ride. And I'm like, okay, it's good. I don't really have a driver's license. I don't have a passport. This is
Wow.
fun. Yeah. And I was like, and I won't say, after about the first month of that kind of lifestyle, I wasn't really scared, but it was extremely aware. And then, and you get tickets, you get pulled over and get a ticket, and you wouldn't argue because you don't want to argue. And then, over here, that's a big deal. Over there, you just go, okay, here's your $2 for tea money. They called it chai. It's a bribe. It's not like a bribe to get to be president of the United States. It's a bribe just for, here's $2 for tea.
Right.
It was way easier. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it easier as a woman that
Yeah.
has the husband, but then you're making all these sacrifices or compromises? Because
Well,
she's
it's
off doing the
certainly-
single
yeah.
thing. This is completely opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different. It's certainly, I mean, as a woman with a husband who's there on their career, everything is paved for you for the most part. I mean, an expat package tries to make it very easy for you to really not have to do anything. And that's the crux of it. That women are like, oh, I don't have to do anything. Isn't that fun? But isn't that what we fought?
Yeah, that sucks.
But that's how
sucks,
that's how I
exactly.
made my living, from women like that who took art lessons because they didn't have anything to do.
I know.
And they
They
did
were
it with
your client.
martinis, gin and tonics and martinis.
But right now, I'm reading stories about how COVID is actually having the same impact.
Oh,
that
yeah.
women are overwhelmed at home, taking care of the kids and trying to have their jobs, and many of them are not going back into the workforce because it was overwhelming. And they maybe they realized they could get along with less or whatever in terms of financially. And I don't want to speak to any woman's decisions to stay home versus not to stay home. But when you start looking at big numbers of women making those choices, I get concerned. I was concerned for myself, that my potential had been impacted.
That's something I think very important, because we are our own identity, and you have dreams, when you're going through school, high school, then college or not college, whatever you do. But okay, we're going to go here. And like, to me, it'd be, oh, this is a country I've never been to. Cool. I want to go. And, I'd do exactly what you did. I'd get into writing, and it would be a little different kind of style, but who knows, I'm a musician. I'd go, okay, I'm going to go jam with the Chinese band. I don't know. 'Cause I don't really
Well,
jam
Good
with
yeah,
luck
Chinese
with
no,
that.
I don't know if they
yeah,
like it,
yeah.
but I'll drink with them. But
I want to
I think
watch.
what's interesting too is it's very similar to me about what happens with military spouses and these
Yes.
communities. It's very similar.
Yes.
How they become this community of support for each other, and especially on the women's. And listen, women are in the military, but I'm going in the general scheme over the years. It's always been the women and the kids, and the men are off doing their thing, and
Right.
it's a career. That's a career. It's the same thing, really.
It's very similar, and it's also government jobs. And I like to say Michelle Obama is the she's the ultimate tag along wife. Here she was, this lawyer in Chicago, and she had
She's
to
got
quit her
style.
job. She's got style, but she had to quit her job and move to Washington, D.C. and become a support partner to Barack. I mean, of course, it's different because she's also the first lady and she's awesome.
Yeah, I think.
But it's the same because she had to reinvent herself, and she did.
But
I mean,
you know
she
what? There's
also-
freedom in that too, because
yes,
okay, so we're like what we do in our business, like with the magazines and everything for 25 years next year with this. Nancy had this in South Africa too, but it's like you don't quit. This is something that will always happen. But we're very project minded. That's why we always change. And I like that the internet changes, and the world of publishing and marketing, all of it keeps changing because
right.
we're like
Yeah.
we're both artistic and all that. So if you're a tag along wife, there's that little sliver of freedom, isn't there? Like you said, oh, I'm going to reinvent myself and do writing, and now I'm going to find this. And you've done a play that has, got a really good acclaim, so there's things that
And an
you can
award-winning play. Yeah,
actually,
no, it is giving
you're
me
in
a
the
new
Fringe
life.
Festival. Yeah, it's like a whole new
Awesome.
thing. And then you could turn around and say, I'm done with that. I'm going to try something else and watch me on this. I mean, so, and it may be easier now with the internet, but so there is some movement with that a little bit, I think.
There is a sense of freedom and the opportunity to explore different facets of yourself, and that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if I was working full time, because that's time. It's completely encompassing and grueling, and deadlines and quotas and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's been an opportunity I wouldn't have had if I had a full-time career.
And the compromise too,
Yeah.
that's something. How do those conversations happen? The compromise with a couple. That's
think,
like, how many cocktails do we have to have or shouldn't have?
yeah, well, I think it's what I tried to show in the book is that it was like a slippery slope. I mean, because in the beginning, of course, she said no. Okay, you can go to Osaka and I'll stay in LA and I'll keep my job because I love my job. And and then that didn't work. So then she made a different choice. Okay, I'll follow you to Korea, but we'll keep the family together. But that didn't work for her. So I think that I don't think that there was a decision. And I think it's in the same way as when you say, look at The Handmaid's Tale. It's this really small and incremental loss of agency that leads to a woman waking up one day and going, what the fuck? Who am I?
Who am I? Like, even I think about my art students and the expat community, especially in Kenya. What did they do all day? They took, I'm going to learn how to weave. I had no real reason for it. I'll go take art lessons. I'll have cocktails, mostly lots of cocktails, starting from at least probably 10 a.m. to midnight. They drank a lot, and they had servants, housemaids, houseboys, whatever you want to call them, whatever is politically correct. I don't know anymore, can't keep up. But so they had all these people. They had gardeners, they had people washing their cars for them, they had people cleaning the house, they had babysitters that lived on the property with them. And they basically really had no responsibilities. So what is your purpose? Who are you?
Yeah, if you have no
Who are you?
responsibility,
Right.
Yeah, who
Who
are
are
you?
What's your identity? And I
Yeah.
think the thing is that these women largely are highly educated.
Yes.
They're bright, they're highly educated, and they've just
they're lost. And because they don't
Yeah.
count, at least, and I'm talking what, Lisa, 30, 40 years ago?
don't make me any older.
Oh, well, I don't know. And
All I know, I
women,
just played with the kids.
women didn't count in Africa anyway.
Mhm.
So you just didn't count.
Mm.
So it's
right.
it was a really interesting experiment, and we were like circling on the
But
outsides of that.
This is also interesting now because over back in those days, okay, women didn't count.
Yeah.
And, you know, even a young girl, you didn't count and you had to be
Yeah.
careful. And there was,
Yeah.
you know, in Kenya, England, South Africa, everywhere we lived, you had to be careful as women, especially single. And then I became a
Right.
teenager, all hell breaks loose, literally.
Right.
And so
Right.
then I look now where we have a women's movement that is changing things, but it is different in every single country and culture.
Yes. of
And
course.
so I wonder if the expat community and the women's community will unite a little bit more culture, like go beyond the
Worldwide, maybe
bubble
even.
and unite in this so that it's more of like a women's movement in a global sense.
A global sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of these days are global. There are, like, I think Women's Day obviously is global, and you're right, that would be really ideal.
I don't know. It just feels like it's still, we're not, like when you go to other countries, you start to realize just how it is for women too, in versus the States, even though we're still fighting stuff right now, right?
Well,
It's
I'll
like,
say this.
Well,
you get hit.
we're fighting a lot of stuff right
no
now.
kidding. I mean, it's like, what the hell? I thought we won all this, but apparently
Well,
not.
exactly. I thought yeah. I thought we'd
think
already been to court on all that, and
you get hit on a
so
lot.
right.
So do you, in Kenya and South Africa, you get as a single woman, whether you have been married, divorced, whatever, you have a child, you have a business, you get hit on constantly, and you have to, whenever you're doing any kind of business dealings, whether it's people who are expat community working there, or people who live and were brought up in that country, if you're talking to a man, you have to go through the let me hit on you process first. So it's like the first hour is no, I'm not interested, but I'm still trying to sell you this ad in my magazine. And it is so compromised. You never, anytime they say want to have coffee, that means let's go to bed. It just nonstop.
And
Yeah.
then you also have the naughty time too, because then you do have those guys and then you go, oh, well, maybe. I mean, there's infidelities that happen.
Well, I think, yeah, that's where like, why not?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Okay.
you know, it's like, you know, it's like the pool boy. Come on, if you're at home all day, because you know, just even I think the
Oh my
story,
gosh,
M's
the
story
pool boy.
also is part of even just American women in a certain era that really, that was it. Let's play with the pool boy because I'm the trophy wife. There's the tag-along wife and the trophy wife, and I think they're pretty much hanging together.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Uh-oh.
maybe that. Yeah, no.
No.
I mean, because certainly,
Oh,
a trophy wife. I
That's
tend
a
to think of a
choice.
trophy wife. There was a choice. She married a relationship where she was going to.
That's a choice. Yeah.
Not have to do
have-
anything.
Yeah, but I think with these tag-along wives, most of the women that I knew had master's degrees. They were like I said, they were highly educated. They had been professional women. These choices kind of evolved after the marriage. They didn't choose. When they got married, they were probably all equal partners. And that's primarily most of the women that I knew in those situations, that they were bright, they had careers. And, you know, it's hard to really just make blanket statements
That's
about them,
true.
because there are
Yeah.
so many, and there are so many women who are young and raising babies and figure, okay, it's a good opportunity for me to be home with the babies. And then there are women who are doing it in retirement, and then there are women who feel trapped. I mean, so there's many
Everybody's different. Yeah.
everybody's different.
And a trophy wife still also has a duty in her trophyism. You're still,
Yeah, she has to look good.
yeah, I know. You have to
Trophyism?
get on the
Oh my
treadmill,
gosh.
whether you like it or
You
not.
gotta get on the
And it's like, so there is like, there's responsibility with trophyism.
Well, what I found more interesting also was, for example, when in Paris, I happened to live in Paris when Clinton was in office, and I guess the whole country was up in arms because of Clinton having affairs and stuff. And now more's come out about this, but the French were laughing at Americans. They were like, really?
So what?
So what?
I know, we're open.
on,
Yeah, move on. Yeah.
It was just, so there are different cultural norms everywhere you go, and we tend to think as Americans that we have the right way of doing things. But I think one of the things about living overseas is that you get to see America from a different set of eyes.
Yes,
this is
and
true.
You're able to be a little bit more discerning and about our value system, you being perhaps not the best.
And knowledge, like, I remember writing to my mother, and she thought that the capital of Africa was Idi Amin. And I'm like, what?
Right.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing, your relationships overseas. Yeah, back home, I should say.
Because I don't know, it's like you study the country that you're in, most of us would, if you're living somewhere, and everything is different. I taught English to children in Kenya, and I don't have any credentials to teach English at all.
Right, but you become an ambassador. And I taught English in Tokyo. I taught English in China. I got certified when I lived in Paris, and I did teach English when I was in Korea, but it was before I had been certified. So I taught English everywhere, and I think you're an ambassador, and you're presenting the best possible image of an American woman.
Also, this whole part of the teaching is about another communication and merging of the cultures, which I think is really great, and sharing. You learn from your students all the time. But I wanted to touch on what you do here. Aren't you mentoring youth in writing as well?
Yeah, I am. I'm affiliated with Write Girl in Los Angeles, which uses writing and the arts to help youth who are I think that who just don't have the resources. So I just went through the summer where I mentored a 17-year-old girl who wrote her first book.
Wow.
And I mean, which is just so amazing to me. And it's young adult fantasy.
Cool.
And so I've been working with her on her manuscript and helping her get it to a place where she can begin to shop it. So I think it's been super rewarding. The organization itself is, as I said, Write Girl is is an amazing organization and helps so many young adults. For a long time, I was working through their Bold Ink writing program, which also helped just kids in detention. So that was boys, primarily youth in detention, and just trying to help them through coming in once or twice a week and working with them on writing exercises and helping them express themselves. And
that's cool, because that's a therapy too. And even just writing things down, and you're able to start to see like it takes while you're putting emotion into it, you're taking emotion out for yourself in a way.
Well, absolutely. And I don't think we say that it's a therapy, but obviously just the ability to call up these, to call up these thoughts, diffuses them. And also to be able to envision, to work with kids who are in a detention center and help them envision a better future for themselves.
And get an identity.
You know, what's your perfect day?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do next year? And when you, that kind of thing. And because you need to get them to be positive and to think this is temporary and what's my future going to be.
I love
make
this
it better. Yeah,
because I
make it
think,
better.
you know, that's going back to the beginning of M's story or your story. The whole, you know, part of this is, you know, you go into this with an identity, and, you know, as a tag along wife, you have this identity of what you're going to do in your life. And then it's like, oh, here's this opportunity. This is, you know, this is what life has given us, this card. Do we take it or not? What's going to happen? But it is that fight for identity. And I think there's a time where you go, okay, it's we're in this new place. Do I want to be here? Apparently Nancy told me so. You know, she needs you. Nancy was not ruin it for me. Oh, she's like me. She's like me. Anyway, you behave yourself. But but she was she's been laughing through it. But
oh, good, because it is supposed to be funny.
Really,
It is funny. I find
like,
it.
and listen, and then she's like, you won't believe this, and I'm like, do not tell me. And I'm like, I'm gonna take it away from your Kindle any second. But
I know.
but this is the beauty is you go to a country and you may have these like you imagine what it's going to be like. You can do research, whatever year it is, doesn't matter. You go there and you think you may know, you have like some hopes. Everybody has expectations, even though they say don't have expectations. We have expectations in our minds.
Of course we
and we
do.
get there and it's never going to be what you really thought, you know, when you go to a foreign country, especially to live. And it's a whole different thing because you kind of have to lose your identity a bit to actually
Or stretch. Or stretch.
Stretch, because I don't think you ever lose your.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, everybody's experience is different, but as a serial mover who's.
I'm so glad you said mover and not criminal or, you know.
Yeah, no, as a serial mover and having lived places anywhere from 1 to 4 years, I'm not really going to be entrenched in any local environment if I'm only there for a year or two, and I'm not going to become fluent in the language, but I am going to become knowledgeable and stretch what I know of the world. But I'm not going to lose my American identity in a year or two. So
your personal.
I think, right. Well, I am going to lose my when you add that up to 10, 12, 15 years overseas, I think you become more of a global nomad. I think you have a different perspective.
Yeah, I don't think you separate countries out so much as people who don't have the expat or the go to another country and live experience. You know, it becomes home to you.
Right.
And there's things you like and things you don't like. Just like living here, there's things you like and things you don't like. So it just becomes a different home. And then, okay, well, if you've had 4, 5, 6 different homes, maybe more, then you start to think globally.
That's my point. You become a global nomad, and you start to see, what the similarities are, what the differences are, and you just, I think, become so much more accepting of different cultural environments. And so I think we should all have these experiences because they're eye-opening and it's really, it is when government's talking about changing hearts and minds, it's really kind of what we're doing on the ground is presenting, as I said before, we are ambassadors, and every one of us who's living overseas is an ambassador, and to that extent, the kind of person we present is the stereotype that person on the other end is going to think of Americans. Yeah,
we don't want to be the ugly American tourist.
No,
we don't. No. And it's so funny because the communication is okay. Whatever our actions are, they're watching us. They're watching they're even watching how we order food in a restaurant. How do we treat people? Are you going to, you're absolutely right about being an ambassador. I really love you said that, because
Yeah.
it's important, as you know, that we connect in a just by body language. You can tell how
Right.
to be.
Oh, sure.
But the global thing is so interesting, because like we right now, I mean, we've lived in different places. I think we're still arguing about it. 16 different schools growing up. You know, I can't
Wow.
think that Nancy. I mean, it's like, who cares now? You know, that's
Oh,
really
so
what.
my daughter has nothing to complain about. Okay,
No.
go
Okay,
on.
here we go.
Here it comes.
Because this is it. Because I'm always like, well, this and this and this, and she's like, oh, would you like it better? Would you like to just be in the same house in one place? Would you like that? I'm like, no. So
Yeah.
no matter what, you know, all these different things, it does shape you, and it does affect you in so many different ways.
I consider travel a real education.
And living in the places, and then you get to a place where you're moving so much, it's like you go into a house and you already know, okay, this box is that's that, let's see what it looks like in a different format. It's like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
it's really it.
There is a scene in the book where the family gets together and they're leaving Paris, and they go and ask them to go around the table. We can't go back to the US. So, you know, where do you want to go? And everybody picks a place, and the daughter says, I want to go to Ohio. And, and I want that house with the white picket fence.
And
I
the
want
green.
roots.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
roots.
Yeah.
That's so
you
funny.
think you're giving them the world, and you make these decisions like this will be just a world expanding, life changing opportunity. Certainly that's what G says to M, what M
Yes.
says to her children.
Yeah.
And in so many respects it is, but also just like military brats, they're impacted by this moving around. I still, and I can't speak to how my children, I actually can't, because I asked them recently. I said, so, you know, would you do it over? And my son was like, yes. And my daughter just smiled and I don't think that was a yes.
See, but I think it depends on where you are, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like now we travel full time on the road. So we're somewhere different every week to 2 weeks to a month, depending. And I say, well, okay, so we have our stretches where we're documenting parks and public lands and doing all these cool nature things. And then, you know, we get in an area and we're covering the stories of the town and everything, but then we pet sit. So right now we're taking care of Polo, a Mexican rescue dog. He's the sweetest little
so
sweet
cute.
spaniel mix, something that looks like dogs that we've rescued over the years in different countries, like we Splash and Sammy, and you know, but the sweetest dog. And so today we're in Prescott, Arizona. A couple weeks, no, not even that. We'll be in Albuquerque, then we'll be in Florida, you know, so it's that. But I always say to Nancy, it's like, whenever you start knowing your way around the town, it's time to go.
It's time to leave.
It's time to go.
Right.
And then you do end up coming back, and then it feels, it's so nice to be back.
But
And
it
it's
is hard.
weird.
It's hard to leave the animals, because they become like within 20 minutes, they're like, this is now my cat, this is my dog, this is my garden.
That's hard. That's hard.
Yeah. And then when you have to leave, and one dog in particular who stood in the window as we're getting in the car with this face, that I felt so bad leaving that one dog. I just don't want to say the name of the dog, but I was
it's hard. It is hard when you have animals, and sometimes you can take them and sometimes you don't take them.
Yeah.
But you have dogs.
I have, I've had mixed. I took a dog to Paris.
Oh.
And he didn't, this is not a funny story.
I know.
Uh-oh.
I took a dog to Paris, and we had lived on the ground floor in LA, and we used to call him Houdini because he would jump out the window. Or in LA, the windows are open. He would jump out. He would run around the block to somebody's house who had a pool. And he jumped out the window in Paris, and we were in a fourth floor walk up. So that was devastating. So the next time when we moved, so while we were in Paris, we adopted a French bulldog and we took him home with us. But then when we moved to Tokyo, we did leave him
Yeah.
back in LA, and that was hard. And he got sick, and I had to have an operation. I had to fly home for the dog. So it's all because I was like, he's my dog. He's having surgery. I have to go home. And then the last time we left the dog home with my daughter, and that was that was hard. He was angry. It was hard it took a year to get back in his good graces.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Yeah, the animal thing is hard because
the animal
when
thing is hard.
we went to Mexico, we were there. We weren't even supposed to be there, but we ended up moving there and taking care of my grandparents, my grandmother and her
Troll.
He's since passed on, but he was a troll from Guernsey. But anyway, everybody's got their stories. But while we were there, all of a sudden, here are all these dogs, these little puppies out in the landfill, and
living in tires.
And so we took them all in the car and took them to a vet that we knew there. And between the vet and us, we cleaned them up, and we got them papers to go over the border. I'm not telling you how we got those papers, but we got them papers, and we got them over the border and got them all homes. But it was like, there's this whole thing in pets. I mean, you how do you not be attached to pets when you move to these different countries? Leaving South Africa the way we did, I don't even want to talk about it. It's really hard. You get so attached to these animals, and I think that's the hardest part. Even like military, their kids want animals like other kids do.
I think it is really hard. And I think if I were going to do it again and I had little kids, I would stick with cats because they're easier to take with you. We got 2 cats in China and we brought them home. And they're just easier to transport. And we're weighing another opportunity to go back to China. And but I hear the air is better. But COVID, it's impossible to get in, so I'm really not worried about it. But if we do go, I'm taking my dog.
How's it been living in LA? How's it in LA?
Being back in LA?
Yeah.
Well, it's been COVID.
Yeah, I keep forgetting because we keep moving during COVID, which you shouldn't, but we have been.
You just keep moving? Yeah, no. I
told you we do a lot of parks, and so we've been quarantining everywhere we've been. So
we pet sit, so we go and take care of somebody else's home so they can travel. So we're quarantined everywhere we go. Plus, we have pets.
I wish I knew you 2 weeks ago because I'm going to Maine in August.
I'm jealous.
And I'm excited.
Yeah.
And but I don't want to take I want to take my dog, but she's too big to travel in the cabin on a plane. So it would be good to have you guys come house sit.
Yeah, trusted house sitters. Check it out, trustedhousesitters.com. No one, this is the coolest thing. It's changed our way of travel 100%. She's seriously writing it down.
Yeah,
I am writing it.
No, it's cool because it is completely global. No, you just, it's all over the world. Spain, Portugal, South Africa, and Kenya.
No money changes hands.
Nobody.
And you just go and you watch the house and take care of the pets.
Yes, and then they travel.
I'm gonna be your third person pretty soon.
You should. But it's the coolest thing. But you make all these friends, and it's like these whole other communities. It goes back to what you're talking about with the expat and Ems, situations going around. You create these other communities that aren't the normal community. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's just a different community. Digital nomads have communities.
Right.
We're not living in the same. We're not living normally.
Well, you're living in a virtual world. You're not virtual. You're just living in a nomadic world. And I know that this is a really growing way to live.
Yeah.
And it does have its appeal. And like I think I said, I mean, one of my skills is, after having done this for over 10 years, is you can drop me in the middle of any city. And now I know this because I've traveled with people who don't really travel, and they freak out. They need
Yeah.
maps. They need to know where they are. They need to know where they're going. They need to know where this is, that is. And I just go, oh, okay, I'll figure it out.
I know,
I mean,
because
it's
that's
a
part of the
city.
adventure. And you end up,
Yeah.
I got lost in the middle of Tijuana. This
That
was
was
our
funny.
first, I was barely driving in America, like, and it's all on the other side of the car. And next thing you know, my cousin was driving and she just did, anyway,
Mm.
I won't follow
I haven't
her
done
again.
that. The driving on the other side.
Oh,
Nobody would want me to do that. either.
no. See,
Oh,
this is why people ask if we travel in an RV. Nobody wants to see
no.
me because once in a while I think I'm on the other side. But
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
on a dirt road, I kind
It's
of go
like
back to
second
Africa roots.
nature,
But yeah,
you
I
know.
got stuck in Revolution Square going around, and there's like 6 lanes of people twirling around, and there is nothing saying Ensenada this way. So I pulled right into a mechanic shop that's right on the street. I just drove right in, and I'm like, Ensenada, por favor. And he just starts looking at me, and I'm just like, I don't know, but it's part of it. It's like those
Mhm.
experiences like grow you as a human being,
Yes.
and
Well,
you
they
get
do.
past fear, and you gotta, that's where part of
Mm.
your identity does come in, you know?
Yes.
Right. No, I just had this memory when I was living in Korea. I had just gotten there, and I didn't realize that the door to my apartment was going to lock when I shut it, that I didn't have to
Uh-oh.
lock it. And I
Oh,
locked myself out. And fortunately,
Uh-oh.
at least I was with my kids. And I'd only been there for about a couple days. And so I didn't know even how to contact my husband, I don't think. So I'm walking around this complex, and there was this maintenance guy. And I start talking to him in English, and he's not understanding a word.
Mm.
And then he starts talking to me in Spanish.
No
And I
way.
thought, oh, I know Spanish.
Yeah.
And I was able to tell him that I lost my keys, and he
Mm.
was able to get me in my apartment to
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow,
Well,
okay.
that's weird because
Yeah.
some of the Spanish words, like when we were in
Mm.
Mexico, starting to learn Mexican Spanish, not Castilian, Spanish.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, it is different, but some of the same words are in Afrikaans. So like
Yes.
I was getting like there's like muy bueno. It's like in South Africa is baya moy is very good. So it's like
Oh,
this
okay.
really weird, like all these little things. I'm going,
Mm.
this is some messed up stuff, man. I'm all confused. Just give me
Yeah.
another margarita. I'll be good. But yeah,
Mm.
I think what you're doing is so neat that you're sharing these experiences, because I think
Mhm.
people should basically you get put out of your comfort box, your comfort zone when you are like this. And there are compromises, because it's not one thing if you were traveling on your own. There is a compromise. I laugh at one of our travel writers, Linda Kassam, the food, wine, shopping diva. She's writing an article right now about having to sail from Seattle through Canada, which she just made it through, into Alaska with her husband, because he's like, well, you can do all this traveling around the world, but in summer we're going on a boat, and I'm steering this boat around, and all her fancy wine glasses got smashed because of a wave. The dog food went flying, and she's like, I did not sign up for this, and now it's raining, and I have to have these big boots on, and they do not have sparkly. She's a diva. So she's like,
Sparkles.
right now, she goes, but this was a compromise in our marriage.
Mhm.
And I said I would do this, and he said, okay, you do this. And they had to sit and hash out like their
Mhm.
dreams to make things. And they're both hardworking, amazing human beings. But
Mhm.
for what they wanted to do in their next stage of life was, I'm doing this. I'm not going to do this, because this is part of who I am, and how they had to come together over that.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
very similar. And because I don't want to give anything away, and Nancy, don't.
I am being very good,
But
actually.
that compromise thing is something, it's important for everybody, and especially when you travel,
Mhm.
because you have to have a buddy system and also still be yourself.
Right,
Mhm.
right. You have to, it's both. You have to maintain a sense of self. And I think that M didn't do that for a lot of the book.
Mm.
But in order for this to be successful, you do have to hold space for yourself as well as the relationship.
Well,
And
I oh, go,
you have
sorry,
to
Lisa.
have a sense of humor. You really
Oh well, yeah.
No one's ever said I didn't have a sense of
If you
humor.
don't have a sense of humor,
You
you're gonna
have to
try and
have a sense-
travel. You might as well just open the plane window and get the hell out of it.
Yeah, because you're
Right,
not
so-
going to make it.
No,
without-
you're not going to make it. But
No, but we all know those people, those women who are just
oh yeah,
sad faced and just struggling to cope. And I wanna just,
You
I
know,
want to hug them. I want to shake them. I want to. And this is just a.
like
it's
can you
a-
have a really strong
This is-
cocktail and loosen up?
actually,
You have
no,
to
but
do
this is how we started a magazine, was people telling me while I'm in Africa that there's nothing to do. I was like, what? What do you mean there's nothing to do? There's so much to do. I can't even decide what to do first. You know, there was so
Right.
much. And there's
Right.
so much in this country, there's so much to do.
And people
Right,
sit
and
like
that's-
that, yeah.
It's about your mindset. It
Yes.
really is.
Yes,
It's
the
about-
mindset.
That's why we started the magazine, even in Africa, because I couldn't stand the idea that there's these women, expats, and people living in a country that are obviously wealthier
bubble.
than most of the citizens in that country, saying there's nothing to do.
Yeah. She
And
went,
taking art lessons.
yeah.
And I was like, it's pretty cool for me. I make money because you don't know what to do.
And it's all under the table.
Right.
But you know, and it's interesting.
Don't
how
ever
this
say
all-
that again.
I know that was way back when. But you didn't have a work visa. I did.
I know, that's funny. And you were 10.
Yeah. Well, I was.
Cash
there
is
for a long-
good.
I think it was.
Cash
yeah,
is good.
But I wanted to say this because I mean, all these stories, we're all talking about all these experiences, but with Ems-Awful-Good-Fortune, are you looking at doing like a book club, like a serious, cool, like community for everyone to come and just kind of have like a happy hour with you? Because you could do it anywhere, even if you go to, well, I don't know. Can you do that if you go to China? Because they've
I
got
think it
laws on
should
that.
be it should be a TV series, and it should go
That's
from
what you
country to
want.
country to country.
Yeah, I think you should
Yeah,
be
that's
like,
a good.
yeah.
That is
That'd
a
be
good
ex-
idea.
Yeah.
That is a good idea. And it should just go, yeah, I should start my own book club.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
something that's just always changing because the conversation can go anywhere from marriage to travel to
Mhm.
just it goes anywhere, finding identity. And it's empowering for women because if you don't deal with the part of not having your identity at a certain point, then you can't find your identity. You know what I mean? You have to go through that because everyone's going through something in a different stage in their life, you know? It's like
Right.
yeah.
You have to value your identity to survive in this lifestyle. And I think that is what the character M was coming to terms with. So yeah, you have to have,
Yeah.
it's like it's exactly what they say. Like, if you're in an airplane, you have to take the oxygen for yourself first. You can't help someone if you are crumbling.
Exactly.
Do you always listen to the airport things when they do it on the airplane? Do you listen?
I never listen to any of it anymore.
No.
How many
Same
times
as
have
the
we
ship.
heard it?
No, and then you
This
get
is-
on a ship, they start the same kind of thing. This is the lifeboat. And I'm like, it's always on that
You
side.
need to listen.
You know, if
Stuff
something's
happens.
going
You need
down,
to
I'm just
listen.
jumping over and
Stuff
going swimming.
happens.
I'm
Just
scared.
saying, stuff happens. You
And just
gotta
give me
listen.
my peanuts and my champagne and I'm
At
fine.
this point, don't we know what we're supposed to do?
Yeah, it's like, hello. But it
Uh,
has
Yeah,
been
unless they change if they change it,
then
then
we're all
I'll
screwed.
pay attention.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, I don't, everybody else will know. And we're like, what? But
Anyway, you guys are still traveling. I haven't traveled
Oh.
with the COVID thing, but although I am going to Maine, and that'll be my first time on a
That's
plane, and I'm
awesome.
really excited.
we were
Yeah.
trying to do that last year because we were covering a lot of
Yeah.
bed and breakfast because they really, you know, they that's their business and COVID really affected like these small
Yeah.
businesses and it's
Mm.
their home, you know.
Yeah.
And Maine was just opening up and we're like, we can't get up there in this time for our thing. And we're hoping to get back up. Well, get up there. We haven't been there yet, but
Mm.
I have a thing about, I want to go to Acadia and I want to go to Maine.
Mhm.
There's like,
Maine's lovely. Do you have a home base,
No.
ladies? No. Wow.
We have a storage unit that we gave everything away. But I say everything except for Nancy's photography and my music and all these things, that books that we thought we needed to have and have been around with us. You know how you keep carrying the same thing. And so we managed to give like all our furniture away to a place in Tucson, gospel,
Full rescue mission.
they basically take
Help homeless.
everything, and it helps homeless people get furnishings for their first apartments, getting back on track in life, and into their thrift store. So and the people they're helping come in and take it, and it's pretty interesting because they go through your house going, this is going to be cool for so and so. I'm like, this is, by the time they leave, you're in tears.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was really, I mean, they even took the bird bath, you know.
I know. It's like,
That's cool. I was thinking about this, like, oh my gosh, you know, these people are homeless, and now finally getting this and having a bird bath to actually have that natural thing would be so cool. But anyway, so now we were on the road for about 3-4 years full time, and then we had to stop for a couple years and redo all of our magazine websites and all of that because everything had changed. And we realized the 10 by 10 storage unit, all the things we didn't need. So now we're down to a 9 by 5 storage unit in Tucson. It's got Nancy's art and everything because she's an artist, you know, but it's like what are you going to really cry about, you know? So now we're 100% on the road, and until we can't do it, we'll just keep doing it
yeah.
because it's
Wow.
really cool, and we're
That's-
covering a lot of ground, and I don't want to do anything different than that. You know, to me, it's
Well,
like, I
there you
love it.
go.
I when we were in
is
South Africa, she
awesome.
did it for 2.5 years with her artwork as a
Mhm.
fundraiser for the Cancer Association, and homeschooled me. And my grades went up because I was actually in the places, you know, where we were learning history and everything. And I don't think it's ever left our system. It's like once you get that dirt under your nails, it's always there. And so, yeah, it's
Itchy
Right.
feet. Gotta travel.
Right. No, I get it. And whenever I come home, I feel like I've had my wings clipped. That is
Really?
just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I can't go. Especially because when we were on the road, we travel so much.
Mm, yeah.
If we're in Europe, we traveled all over Europe. When we were in Asia, we traveled all over Asia. So coming back to the US, we typically don't travel so much. And I always feel like I have my wings clipped.
But it's a good country to travel.
It really is. It's, you
You
know,
know?
you hear all these things about what places are like, and then you get there and it's like,
Mm.
I see why they say this and that. You know, when they say Podunk, Iowa, like really it is, but it's really beautiful.
Careful.
When you were saying that, we're going back there in Ohio. No, I really fell in love with those areas, and I'm like, this is so beautiful. And Ohio, we're hopefully going to go take care of horses there soon.
Cool.
Well, I'm from the Midwest, so I'm partial to, I do like the Midwest.
I do too. Yeah, it's
I like Northern
beautiful.
Michigan a lot.
Oh, we
Mm.
spent time in Sagatuck and Grand Rapids. And then last winter, to do something completely different, we spent December and the first week of January in Madison, Wisconsin, and learned how to snow shovel.
Wow. I like Madison.
It's
fun.
Yeah.
awesome. We came back in
It's
the
awesome.
spring, and
Yeah.
it is absolutely
It's
one of
beautiful.
the best cities in this country, I think.
Yeah, it's a really cool city.
And
Yeah,
they have
it is.
flamingos everywhere. So like, what
The-
the heck, you know,
the
you got to
big
do it. The
flamingos.
university.
I adopted 2 cats in Madison.
Oh.
They were called Rock and Roll. It's a
Oh,
story.
right on.
Funny.
That's
That's cool.
awesome. I love that. I love that. That is so cool. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope that your book gets into like being a TV series or something like
I
a
really think it
Netflix
should.
or Hulu. It'd
I'm
be
working,
awesome.
trust me, I'm working on that.
Oh,
Cool.
I
I
love
am-
it.
Cool.
I think by the time that, I think soon I will have an announcement to make.
Oh, you
Oh,
better
awesome.
keep us posted.
Yes.
I absolutely will.
And listen, come on
too.
our happy hour shows from wherever you are anytime.
Oh, I'd love to.
We have
Okay.
happy hour
Cool.
parties. You got to come on our happy hour party.
I gotta be in your happy hour. All right.
Oh yeah, we have
Alrighty.
world parties and happy hour parties. So you definitely can come join us on that. But thanks so much. It has been such
Thank
a
you, lady.
pleasure. You take
is-
care. And oh wait, everybody, we got to give them the website, got to give them the
Oh,
book. It's
wait.
out now. Okay, so
Here.
it's Ems-Awful-Good-Fortune. It's Marcy Maxwell. It's Marcie Maxwell, and it's Marcy
Maxfield.
Why
Maxfield.
did I get the Maxwell?
I don't know. People do that all the time though. So
It's
don't.
Maxwell
Maxwell's
Silver
hammer.
Hammer.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the hammer.
It's a
It's
music
like
thing.
Max and Field.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. My apologies. Did I even introduce you that way? Yes, no.
I don't think so. I
Okay,
usually
good.
pick up on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is because I wrote those notes, these notes. This is what happened. So Marcy-Maxfield.com, everybody. Go get her book out everywhere you can get it, especially see if you can get it in your local bookstore. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We air Sunday through Friday in all kinds of places, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that. Just go to the website. So thanks so much and happy
You guys are
travels.
awesome. Thank you.
You
It's
too.
so good to meet you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.